Obviously, we've made the call today to let Scott go. Happy to answer any questions around that.
Explain the decision around that big decision.
Yeah, it's a big decision for us. We felt putting together a great roster that we think we can go a long way this season. We just felt like the standards that we had set as an organisation to reset the basketball culture, to get back to winning ways, weren't quite there. So we've decided it's better to make this call early. In the past, we haven't done that. We've let that go when we have had doubts. We've made the call early for us to give ourselves the best chance to succeed this season.
You only signed Scott a few months back in February on a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
It's fairly cold and callous call now, isn't it? A few months later.
It was 6 months ago, obviously, and in those 6 months, as I said, we wanted to give it every chance to succeed, and it became clear to us that, as I said, those standards weren't being met on a consistent basis. So for us, we made the call to make that decision.
What were those standards?
I won't go into those details. Suffice to say that I think we want to give this roster every chance of success, and we think this call will make that happen.
Is it fair to say he was blindsided by this?
There's been challenges pretty much from day one of the 6 months. I think if we're honest with each other, there's been a constant challenge. So as I said, as an organisation, we wanted to give it every bit of oxygen, every bit of ability for Scott to improve, to learn, to adapt, and that didn't happen in our view.
Call the club sprouter.
I think it's a decision that the club needed to make to become where we want to go as an organisation, as a professional basketball organisation.
So the turnover of the last 5 years to be the fifth coach in 6 seasons. Is there anything the club can say to that, considering there has been no success over those years?
Yeah, there hasn't been success, and that's the for us. Before the season started, after last season finished, we set some standards in terms of where we wanted to go, and as I said, those standards weren't met, so we wanted to make the call early.
Is 15 games enough to judge a coach on their performance?
15 games, let's go back. Scott was part of the organisation at the start of the season as well as an assistant, so he was part of the program, so he was there for the whole season.
Well, I'm sure you can appreciate that assistant coach is a very different job to head coach. I mean, when you're only at the helm for 15 games, is that enough to make a judgment call on whether he should continue?
The judgment call was made in this off-season as well. So these last 6 months from his appointment as the head coach in February, as I said, those standards weren't met.
Does Scott feel undermined from the moment that you brought Wells into the system?
Matt can talk about that in terms of bringing.
I wouldn't think so. I think they got to know each other when we went over to Vegas to understand each other. Mike's only been here a week and a bit, and he was a good resource to bring in to help Scott. And I just don't think that's been activated the way I'd like it to be.
Nick, how can you expect Scott to stay when you're saying he's not meeting the club standards?
That's in a professional basketball sense. Obviously, he's a legend of the club, so we respect that. And having a role within the club in that community sense, I think is still valuable for our past players.
So he won't have anything to do with the actual basketball team, it's more of a community?
No, correct.
Do you think has he accepted that role?
He hasn't yet, so we'll talk to him about that over the coming days. But yeah, that's where it's at.
What's the specific role that you've offered?
It's a community role in schools and the like.
In terms of the money now that's on the line, you obviously have a contract until you do in place.
Yep.
With the paying out of that deal?
We have had some negotiations around that, so we'll keep that confidential. But suffice to say, we're going to respect who he is as a past player and a legend of the club.
So we're 6 weeks out from the season. Is this a bit too close a call to make to the start of the year, and how disruptive that can be to the players?
Oh, look, it could be, but I think it's better to make the call early, and because we can still obviously put some things in place. We didn't want to fall into what typically happens, where you go down the path of hoping things will change, and you get into a 3-7, 3-8 sort of scenario, and then you pull the lever. It's better to make the decision and say, we're not seeing what I want to see, what I expect as standards in a professional team in the NBL in 2025. So they're hard calls, but they're the right calls. And that's why we wanted to make it now, so we can actually try and put things now in place.
Matt, were you butting heads with Scott Ninnis?
No, I wouldn't say butting heads, no. I've obviously got the way I want the club to go, where I want it to go. And you're always going to have robust discussions. And the same happens between me and Nick. So I wouldn't say butting heads.
What will the club say to the fans who are clearly fuming online this last handful of hours?
I mean, we if you look at us right now, we've got a fantastic roster which has been put together, and every chance of being successful. We've got Mike Wells, who is now head coach, who's almost 30 years in the NBA, 2 NBA rings. We've got Marko Marinovic coming later this week, who's just won a bronze medal with the Serbian national team at the Olympics. We've got some really experienced basketball knowledge coming into this organisation, and a great roster.
Mike Wells the man for you guys going forward? Is it more than just the season you're expecting from him?
Mike Wells is appointed for the coming season, and yes, we believe so.
How
yeah.
was Scott when he obviously you told him the news? What did he say?
We won't go into that, obviously, in terms of the detail around that, but we had the discussion, and yeah, we ended up where we did this morning.
How was he?
I mean, he was fine. I mean, we had a discussion on the way out, and obviously it's a shock to him. But as I said, it's been challenging. Since February, it has been challenging. We have to be honest with ourselves. It has been challenging, and it's been an ongoing thing for us. So yeah.
Is it a disciplinary thing? Like, is it a discipline that he's fallen out of touch with the club, or how does it come about, really? Like, we're talking about a couple of months you signed him, and now you're getting rid of him.
Yeah.
Just the standards of where we want the team to be, the detail that lays underneath that, and how you want to prepare a team. I'm not seeing that. And that's going to be really important for us to be able to compete with other NBL teams. And these are basic standards that any NBL team would have. Okay, and I'm just not seeing that.
Has he broken club rules?
No, it wouldn't be club rules. It's more about what we're expecting in terms of driving performance.
I mean, we exist. We want to win a championship. Let's just put it down. We want to win that championship, and for us, we felt the best way forward was to make a change to get to that point. We didn't want to go into another season where we had some doubts. We have doubts, and we've done that in the past. And as Matt said, we go into the season and there's 8 games in or 10 games in, we're in a situation where we're thinking about making a change.
What's different to January when he was winning games for the club and clearly was driving the team very well to now?
Yeah, so basketball-wise, let's go, whenever you have a change of coach, you get a sugar hit, yeah? We also had a team worth over $3 million last year, yeah? So as we go through that and you look at that performance, it was good to get us out of where we were, but we were in a very bad spot when he took over. And it's not like we went to a terrific spot, we just went to a spot probably not as bad. Now when you reset, you say, where do we want to be, how do we want to go? And second last is not acceptable.
And the record last year, which is great, he did a great job to get us out of that issue we had, but the record wasn't overly fantastic. You got 8 wins and 7 losses. Away from home we were really poor. Home we were great. So that
If you had your time again, Nick, would you have liked to have employed Matt before you signed Scott on for 2 years?
I think we were always looking for that. We were publicly saying that we were looking for a GM of basketball. We just needed to find the right person, and it's obviously we're in Adelaide. It's to find that right person with the right experience, and Matt came at a particular period of time where we needed it. So it would have been great to come in earlier, but that's how it worked out.
How the players reacted to this?
Yeah, so we told them this morning, and it was a shock, but they settled down. They were able to take it on board. We've just had a very, very good practice, so we're pretty happy with how they've been able to come through it.
They get given any say at all? The leadership group come into these decisions at all?
Look, in something like this, No, because we want to ensure that leadership from the top is obviously delivering something which is going to be best for the players. There's certain things that you will lean on your leadership piece, but on decisions like this, you don't.
What about fellow coaching staff? Is there a bit of discontent among the coaching staff and other members of the club in terms of this decision?
No, not that we know of. No, at all.